Good afternoon, radio fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. And we are back with another look at radio ratings from select markets from across the country. And today, our focus will be shifted onto the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Denver, and San Diego radio markets. With that said, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the June 2025 ratings for the number 16 market in the U.S. And that is Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater. All right. A two-dog race at the top, and taking over the number one spot is Radio Training Network's the Joy FM 91.5 WCIE with a contemporary Christian music format. They jumped up from 7.1 to 7.5 and a cumulative audience of 294,600. They grabbed the top spot away from Cox Media Group's Soft AC station 105.5 The Dove WDUV, which took more than a 1-point drop in June from 8.6 to 7.3. Cumulative audience of 622,800. In third place is Cox Media Group's classic rock leaning classic hits station 107.3 The Eagle WXGL, moving up from 5.3 to 5.7 and a cumulative audience of 457,700. Hey, good day, King Caesar. All hail the king. Right below them in fourth place is Beasley Media Group's country station 99.5 WQYK, which is down a little bit from 5.9 to 5.6. And they have a cumulative audience of 313,700. Then you got a pair of iHeart radio stations taking the next two spots, including Rock Station and Tampa Bay Buccaneers flagship 98 Rock WXTV, jumping nearly a point from 4.0 to 4.9 and a cumulative audience of 346,400. Taking the number 6 spot is their sister adult contemporary station Mix 100.7 WMTX, inching up from 4.7 to 4.8 with a cumulative audience of 526,500. In 7th place is Cox Media Group's hot adult contemporary Magic 94.9 WWRM, moving up from 4.1 to 4.5. and a cumulative audience of 495,900. Falling down to 8th place is Beasley Broadcast Group's classic hits station Q105 WRBQ FM, dropping half a point from 4.9 to 4.4. and a cumulative audience of 335,200. In 9th place is iHeart country station US 103.5 WFUS, and they took a big hit in June, dropping from a 6.0 to a 4.3, and a cumulative audience of 361,800. And rounding out the top 10, you have a tie for 10th place with iHeartRadio Top 40 station 93.3 WFLZ and Cox Media Group Talk Station 102.5 The Bone WHPT, both at a 3.8. FLZ is down from 4.2, while HBT rose slightly from 3.7. FLZ has a cumulative audience of 372,800, while WHBT 102.5 The Bone has a cumulative audience of 133,700. In 12th place is Beasley Broadcast Group's hip-hop station, Wild 94.1 WLLD-FM, rising from 2.8 to 3.2 and a cumulative audience of 250,900. They are actually tied for 12th with iHeartRadio's Spanish tropical station, Rumba 95.7 WRUB, which jumped from a 1.8 to a 3.2. Cumulative audience for Rumba 95.7 is 199,700. Coming in 14th place is NPR news station WUSF News 89.7 from the University of South Florida, declining a little from 3.4 to 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 141,300. Tied for 15th place, you have Cox Media Group's Urban AC station 101.5 The Vibe WTBV-FM, and Beasley Broadcast Group's Spanish Top 40 station 92.5 Maxima WYUU, both coming in at a 2.9. The Vibe is down more than a point from 4.0 in May, while Maxima took a slight hit down from 3.0. Cumulative audience for 101.5 The Vibe is 285,100, and for 92.5 Maxima is 201,900. That's followed by iHeartMedia's news and talk station, News Radio WFLA, which is heard on 970 in the Tampa Bay market. They're down from 2.8 to 2.7 with a cumulative audience of 148,700. Next up is Beasley Media Group's classic rock station, 98.7 The Shark WPBB, taking a half-point hit down from 3.0 to 2.5 with a cumulative audience of 237,100. Now, there is some news involving 98.7 in Tampa Bay. Beasley Broadcast Group will reportedly sell WPBB to the Educational Media Foundation and bring the K-Love format to the Tampa Bay area for the first time. Further down is iHeartMedia sports station, 95.3 WDAE, which is WDAE 620 AM, and an FM translator in St. Pete on 95.3. This is the Tampa Bay Rays flagship station. They're down from 2.3 to 1.9 and a cumulative audience of 109,400. And what I didn't mention about the Bone is the Tampa Bay Lightning flagship station. I want to get that in there. Next up is non-commercial variety station WMNF 88.5, which is owned by the Nathan B. Stubblefield Foundation. They saw a big jump in the month of June, going from 1.0 to 1.7, with a cumulative audience of just 66,200. That's followed by Spanish Broadcasting Systems El Zol 97.1 WSUN, playing Spanish tropical music. They're up from 1.3 to 1.5, with a cumulative audience of 128,400. Next up is Christian contemporary station Spirit FM 90.5 WBVM, owned by the Archdiocese of St. Petersburg. They're up from 1.2 to 1.3, with a cumulative audience of 85,600. Next up is Q Broadcasting's Spanish contemporary station La Mega Tampa Bay, heard on WTIS 1110 AM, and this is a daytimer station, as they are required to go off the air at sunset. La Mega saw a slight drop from 1.2 to 1.1 with a cumulative audience of 90,900. Below them is their sister regional Mexican station, La Ley, 107.7 and 1550 WAMA AM. Main signal is on 1550, and they have an FM translator in Tampa on 107.7. They jumped from 0.3 to 1.0 and a cumulative audience of 79,800. Next is iHeartRadio's classic hip-hop station, 106.5 and 102.9 The Beat, which is WBTP. They're up from 0.4 to 0.8 with a cumulative audience of 88,600. Now, it's been a little more than a year since 95.7 and 106.5 not only exchange formats but frequencies, because the Beat was an urban contemporary station at 95.7, but then they moved to 106.5, which is technically assigned to Sarasota, which is south of Tampa. And then the Spanish tropical format of Rumba moved to 95.7. The Beat has a cumulative audience, as I said, of 88,600. Then Moody Radio Florida, WKES FM, from the Moody Bible Institute of Chicago, in its religious format, is down from 0.7 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 27,700. Then you have Beasley Broadcast Group's Spanish tropical station, Playa 106.9, which is heard on an FM translator in Tampa on 106.9 FM and fed via WYUU HD2. They're up a little bit from 0.2 to 0.5 with a cumulative audience of 34,500. The Joy FM 88.1 WJIS registered in June at a 0.3. This is another station from the Radio Training Network. They have a cumulative audience of 15,200. Then you have a news talk station on WMNF HD3 known as The Source. They hold steady at a 0.3 for a fourth month in a row with a cumulative audience of 14,900. This station is also owned by the Nathan B. Stubblefield Foundation. And then you have another property of the Radio Training Network right below them, the Joy FM Praise 91.5, which is WCIE HD2. They took a drop of a half a point from 0.7 to 0.2 and a cumulative audience of 9,200 for the Christian AC format. And right below them is Light Force Radio, which is also a Christian AC format, heard on WCIE HD3. They're up from 0.1 to 0.2, cumulative audience of 16,700. And then University of South Florida's classical music station, Classical WSMR 89.1, holds steady at 0.2. Cumulative audience of 15,900. Next up is 97X. This is the alternative rock format from Cox Media Group, which was heard full market on 97.1, but now is heard on WTBV HD2. They're down from 0.4 to 0.2 with a cumulative audience of 36,900. And then the online stream of 1015 The Vibe is also down from 0.3 to 0.2. In fact, 97X has a cumulative audience of 36,900, while The Vibe's online stream is at 14,500. All right, we're just about at the bottom here of the Tampa Bay market. Next up is iHeartRadio's business news station, Impact Radio 1250 WHNZ 19,100. And then you have the online streams of Moody Radio Florida, the news talk station The Source on WMNF HD3, and El Zol 97.1, all registering at 0.1. Classical WSMR 89.1 is also heard on WUSF HD2, and they registered for the first time at 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 3,200. The online stream of Magic 94.9 also registered at a 0.1. Meanwhile, iHeartRadio's Pride Radio, heard on WFLZ HD2, did not register. So that's the Tampa Bay market. Now we're heading west, skipping over number 17 and going to the number 18 market in the country, and that would be the Denver, Colorado radio market. This also includes Boulder. The top station in the Mile High City is Bonneville's adult contemporary station, Cozy 101.1 KOSI, jumping from 6.4 to 7.7, and a cumulative audience of 520,600. In second place is Bonneville's sister country station, 98.5 KYGO, holding steady at a 5.9, cumulative audience of 314,900. In third place is iHeartRadio's Channel 93.3, or rather KTCL, which plays alternative rock. They're down half a point from 5.9 to 5.4, cumulative audience of 373,600. In fourth place is classic hits station Cool 105 KXKL, dropping from 6.1 to 5.3, and a cumulative audience of 390,500. The station is owned by KSE Radio Ventures. Now, this is one of the few radio stations in Denver that is owned by Stan Kroenke. So, Cool 105 comes in at number 4. In fifth place is Odyssey Hot AC station Alice 105.9 KALC, holding steady at a 5.2, and a cumulative audience of 313,500. Below them is their hip-hop station, KS 107.5, KQKS, which is also owned by Odyssey. They're up a point plus to 3.8, from 3.8 rather to 4.9, and they have a cumulative audience of 306,300. And in the Odyssey triple play is their classic rock station, 99.5 The Mountain, KQMT, down from 4.5 to 4.4, with a cumulative audience of 388,500. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Alice 105.9 is 5th. KS 107.5 sits in 6th place. And 99.5 The Mountain fell to 7th. Joey's in the house. What's poppin'? Ready for that ball giveaway tonight? In 8th place is iHeartRadio Classic Rocker 103.5 The Fox KRFX. This is the FM flagship of the Denver Broncos. They took a big hit, dropping from 5.3 to 4.2, with a cumulative audience of 373,600. And they, as a result, fell to 8th place. Its sister adult album alternative format of 97.3 KBCO is in 9th place, up from 4.0 to 4.1. Crazy Cajuns in the house, how's it going? KBCO has a cumulative audience of 332,600. Rounding out the top 10 is Denver's local K-Love station on 91.1 KLDV, and they're actually down from a record-setting 4.3 to a 4.0. And their cumulative audience is 175,000, but again, it's enough to crack the top 10 in the Denver market. Outside the top 10, you have iHeartRadio Top 40 station, Hits 95.7 KDHT, up from 3.5 to 3.7, and a cumulative audience of 278,500. That's good for 11th place. In the number 12 spot is NPR station CPR News 90.1 KCFR FM from Public Broadcasting of Colorado. They're up from 3.3 to 3.6 and a cumulative audience of 159,400. 13th place is Intravision's Live Tricolor 96.5 KXPK, up from 3.2 to 3.5, and a cumulative audience of 170,200, making the regional Mexican station the highest rated Spanish language outlet in Denver. Just below them is another Stan Kroenke station, Hot AC Mix 100 KIMN. They're down from 3.2 to 3.0 with a cumulative audience of 287,500. They are tied with Intravision's La Suavecita 92.1 KJMN, which plays Spanish adult hits, and iHeart Country Station 106.7 The Bowl KWBL, both stations also registering at 3.0. La Suavecita is up from 2.9, and they have a cumulative audience of 130,500, while 106.7 The Bowl is down from 3.3 to 3.0, and a cumulative audience of 207,700. Up next is Bonneville Sports Station, Denver Sports 104.3 KKFN, inching up from 2.3 to 2.4, and a cumulative audience of just 89,200. After that is iHeartRadio's News Talk Station, KOA News Radio 850 AM and 94.1 FM, up from 1.7 to 2.0, cumulative audience of 138,300, and this is the main Denver Broncos flagship station, as well as the Colorado Rockies flagship station. Then you have a couple stations right next to them from Public Broadcasting of Colorado. Their classical music station, CPR Classical 88.1 KVOD, is actually tied with KOA in the ratings, dropping from 2.7 to 2.0 and a cumulative audience of 116,600. Hey, Motto Lorianne's in the house. How you doing? And then its sister adult album alternative station, Indie 102.3 KVOQ, is up from 1.5 to 1.9 with a cumulative audience of 98,500. Up next is KSE Radio Ventures Sports Station, Altitude Sports 92.5 KKSE FM. And they took a major drop in June, falling from 3.0 to 1.8, and a cumulative audience of 79,500. Now, this would be the flagship station of both the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets. Next up is Rocky Mountain Public Media's jazz station, QVO Jazz 89.3 KUVO, slipping from 1.9 to 1.8 with a cumulative audience of 83,100. Next is iHeartRadio's conservative talker Freedom 93.7, which is heard on KDFD 760 with a Denver-based translator on 93.7. They're up from 1.4 to 1.6, cumulative audience of 52,500. Next up is 105.5 The Colorado Sound, which is KJAC-FM, playing an adult album alternative format, owned by Community Radio for Northern Colorado. They're up from 1.0 to 1.3, cumulative audience of 6,200, or rather 62,000. iHeartRadio's rock station, 107.9 KBPI, is not doing too well. They are up from 0.9 to 1.0, cumulative audience of 134,300. So they are pretty much buried in the Denver ratings, as is its sister talk station, Talk Radio 630 KHOW, up from 0.7 to 1.0. And they only have a cumulative audience of 22,500. Next up is Odyssey's classic country station, Front Range Country 103.1, which is heard on KQKS HD2. Down from 1.1 to 1.0, cumulative audience of 73,700. Next is NPR station KUNC 91.5 from Community Radio for Northern Colorado. Down from 0.9 to 0.7, cumulative audience of 41,600. Next up is hip hop station 89.3 HD2 The Drop, heard on KUVO HD2, down from 0.8 to 0.7, and this station is owned by Rocky Mountain Public Media. They have a cumulative audience of 58,100. Then you have KXDP-LP La Invasora 87.7 from Syncom Media, playing regional Mexican music. They're up from 0.5 to 0.7 with a cumulative audience of 61,700. Next is Bonneville's Denver Sports 1600 KEPN, which runs the entire ESPN radio schedule. They're up from 0.1 to 0.2, cumulative audience of 12,800. Alright. Then you have the classic country format heard on KYGO 98.5 HD2, which remains at a 0.2. Cumulative audience of 17,500. KKSE AM, or Altitude Sports AM 950, comes in next at a 0.1 and only a cumulative audience of 7,000. Now this is the AM counterpart to KKSE FM. And that's another Stan Kroenke station. Intravision's regional Mexican station, Jose 1090, KMXA, registers at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 6,400. The online stream of 99.5 The Mountain also comes in at a 0.1 with a cumulative audience of 2,900. As for stations that did not register in the Denver books for June, that includes 1430 The Bet, KAMP, which is Odyssey's sports betting station. Comedy 99.5 on KQMT-HD2, which has a comedy format. That's also from Odyssey. There's also iHeartMedia's Punk Tacos, which plays basically punk rock. And that's on KTCL-HD2. They didn't register, nor did the online stream of Indie 102.3. Alright, so that is the Denver market. The last market we'll look at today will be San Diego, California, number 19. Alright, and leading the way down in San Diego is Odyssey Classic Hit Station, Sunny 98.1 KXSN, jumping a full point from 9.0 to 10.0, and a cumulative audience of 691,700. So they are the clear market leader in San Diego. Next up is Local Media San Diego's Rhythmic AC station, Magic 92.5 XHRM, which is assigned in Mexico but broadcasts from San Diego. They're up from 6.7 to 6.8, taking number 2 in the market with a cumulative audience of 509,800. And then you have San Diego State University's NPR news station, KPBS 89.5, taking 3rd place, up from 6.0 to 6.1. Cumulative audience of 222,000. And then you have a trio of Odyssey stations taking the next 3 spots. In 4th place is their adult contemporary station, KYXY 96.5, holding steady at a 5.8, staying 4th, and a cumulative audience of 465,500. Its sister sports station, 97.3 The Fan, KWFN, which is the San Diego Padres flagship, they hold steady at a 5.5 with a cumulative audience of 205,500. And then their country station, 103.7 KSON, is in 6th place, moving up from 4.4 to 4.6, and a cumulative audience of 255,200. So Odyssey takes 4 of the top 6 spots in the San Diego market. So they're doing real well down there. And then after the trio of Odyssey stations, you have a trio of iHeartMedia stations taking the next 3 spots. Number 7 is News Talker News Radio 600 KOGO, up from 3.6 to 4.4, coming in 7th place with a cumulative audience of 145,900. Next up is iHeartRadio Classic Rock Station 101.5 KGB FM, inching up from 3.9 to 4.0. Cumulative audience of 342,900, and that's good for 8th place. And right below KGB is iHeartRadio's sister hot adult contemporary station, Star 94.1 KMYI, dropping from 4.4 to 3.9, and a cumulative audience of 393,700. And then rounding out the top 10, you have Local Media San Diego's classic alternative rock station, 91X, which is XTRA FM, down from 3.7 to 3.6, cumulative audience of 322,900, and that's good to crack the top 10. Just ahead of iHeartRadio's rock station, Rock 105.3 KIOZ, up from 3.1 to 3.5, and a cumulative audience of 252,400. Odyssey's alternative rock station, Alt 94.9 KBZT, takes a drop from 3.5 to 2.9, and a cumulative audience of 308,200. They are tied with local media's Z90.3 XHTZ, which plays top 40 music. They're up from 2.7 to 2.9, and they're also tied with Spanish contemporary station Radio Latina 104.5, which is XLTN, holding steady at a 2.9. And those three stations are tied for 12th place. Radio Latina 104.5 is owned by Grupo Imagine. That's a Mexican broadcaster. And they have a cumulative audience of 164,000. In 15th place is iHeartRadio's top 40 station, Channel 93.3, KHTS, dropping from 3.0 to 2.7. Cumulative audience of 357,400. That's then followed by Televisa Univision's Cubana 106.5, KLNV, playing regional Mexican music. They're down from 3.0 to 2.6, cumulative audience of 161,100. The local K-Love station in San Diego is 102.1 KLVJ, playing Christian contemporary music. They're up from 2.1 to 2.2 and a cumulative audience of 115,000. They're nearly a half point ahead of Televisa Univision's Spanish adult hit station Amor 102.9 KLQV, down from 2.5 to 1.8. Cumulative audience of 139,600. Next up is San Diego's official hip-hop station of record, and that's Jammin' 95.7 KSSX from iHeartRadio. They're down from 1.5 to 1.4, cumulative audience of 209,500. The local Air 1 station in San Diego is 92.1 KARJ, holding steady at a 0.8, cumulative audience of 47,300. Next up is a Spanish top 40 station from Uni Radio known as Pulsar 107.3 XHFG, down from 0.8 to 0.7 and a cumulative audience of 71,700. Lotus Communications classic regional Mexican station 100.7 La Frontera, that is KFBG FM. They're up from 0.3 to 0.6, and they had just switched to this format not too long ago. La Frontera has a cumulative audience of 74,600. Next up is Uni Radio's regional Mexican station La Invasora 99.7 XHTY, down from 0.6 to 0.5, cumulative audience of 64,300. That's then followed by iHeartRadio's conservative talker 1360 The Patriot KLSD, down from 0.4 to 0.3, cumulative audience of 19,900. And we have another Air 1 station in the San Diego market, and that's 96.1 KYDO. They're down from 0.4 to 0.3. Cumulative audience of 29,000. Next is Uni Radio's regional Mexican station La Invasora 94.5 XHA FM, holding steady at 0.3, and a cumulative audience of 34,200. Next is the online stream of Alt 94.9, down from 0.3 to 0.2, cumulative audience of 11,400. And then iHeartRadio sports station San Diego Sports 760 KGB AM is down from 0.3 to 0.2, cumulative audience of 29,500. And then you have a comedy format from Odyssey known as Comedy Now, heard on KBZ THD3. They're at a 0.1. and a cumulative audience of 9,200. And below them is Uniradio's Spanish tropical station, La Poderosa 860, XEMO-AM. They're holding steady at a 0.1 and a cumulative audience of 7,100. All right. You have a full power station, an HD digital station, and an online stream that did not register in the San Diego books for June. And those stations are EMF's Radio Nueva Vida, KKLJ, which I think is 100.1, with a Spanish religious format. They did not register. Nor did San Diego State University's KPBS FM HD2, which plays classical music. And the online stream of KYXY 96.5. Alright, so KFBG, this is a quick note, they flipped from a temporary simulcast of 91X to its current regional Mexican format on May 1st. So there's that. And as a look at the June radio ratings for Tampa Bay, Denver, and San Diego. In our next installment, we'll be taking a look at Charlotte, Long Island, and Baltimore. So make sure you join me for that. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy listening. Peace out.